Good morning and hello. Welcome to Flourish and Flooring Podcast by Women of the Flooring Business. We're a community of women in tile, stone, and flooring who are passionate about professional and personal growth. I'm your host, as you all know, Cameron Metheney, visionary entrepreneur of Cameo Studio Designs, principle where I am recognized by the concept designer dopamine, where I merge all things tile, porcelain, and stone with lighting. As you guys may or may not know, Women of the Flooring Business is a podcast that is sponsored by my company, Cameo Studio Designs, known for commercial and residential tile installations. Among all things, we integrate lighting into tile. If you are looking for a CEU for future, for showrooms or education, please reach out to cameostudios.com in the CEU for designer dopamine. Also, if you are interested in becoming a sponsor, which is a really exciting time, check out or email podcast@womenflooring.com and you can speak with the podcast sponsorship director there. Also, because of our recent sponsorship, I'm so excited, navigating a lot of things here this morning, but our recent sponsorship, we now have the most amazing pink microphone that lights up with LED ever. So super, super excited about that. Today, I am so excited. You listeners are going to be blown away by my guest, all the way from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Merecedes Austin, who is an artist, owner, founder, mover, and shaker of Mercury Mosaics, and my friend. So I want to welcome Merecedes.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, you are so welcome. I am so delighted to have you on today. And I have just had so much fun researching your company, learning about you since I met you at Coverings. Truly, you are an inspiration to me. And after people listen to this podcast, girl, I hope we spec you on everything here on out.
Thank you. I super appreciate that. What do we got? What should we talk about? Where should we start?
Oh my gosh. I want to know about your journey. I want to know about how you found your sweet spot in this industry.
Ooh, okay, let's see. Let me give you the high level journey because I've been running and dancing with Mercury Mosaics for 22 years. It all started as a solo studio artist dream. And I think I landed on creating a handmade tile company because as an artist, tile and mosaics became the very first thing that I learned I could actually focus on, and it had a wide enough variety to keep me engaged. At the time when I started, I was, I was painting, I was doing photography for weddings, I was running a black and white dark room with photojournalism, and I was also drawing. I was doing so many different things artistically that it really appealed to me to just focus. And so tile really became something that there was something about it that made me completely fall in love with it. And also I had a very typical artist lifestyle. I was partying too much. I had more time not sober than sober. And honestly, I started realizing, like, once I was telling people about what I was doing related to tile, it was like the first time in my life that I actually had a sense of self-dignity. And I just started paying attention to that. And that's the simplicity of how it began, is something could actually capture my attention long enough for me to follow through with several things related to it. So I would say it was the correct thing to focus on since it's 22 years later. But just a little kind of high level of how did I find a sweet spot related to tile? All roads do lead back to coverings. So I was a pretty big showcasing company at Coverings between the years 2005 and 2009. I really got into working with showrooms and distributors after really attempting to start my company and work only directly with customers. And I soon found out that it was going to be a bit easier to work through showrooms and distributors. So I did that primarily up until about 2010, and really just navigated figuring out like, what is the product line? What do standard sheets of tile look like? Who are my customers? What are they interested in? What do they need? And just really developing that. And that was primarily focusing on residential during that journey. Well, in the year 2011, I really shook things up and I started branching out into commercial design. And I really hit it off with some designers on the West Coast, and they were doing some really creative work across the US and Canada through their Lululemon stores. And I looked at the opportunity as like
Lululemons now. I saw that on your website. So that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like they gave me these like massive coloring book pages, and although I was like supposedly on this journey to figure out how to make standard tile, they never ordered the same thing twice. So it was like I was on the simultaneous journey of like embracing and building this custom side of what we do alongside developing how we're going to standardly fit into the tile industry. So it was really good because it helped, keep that artist and creative in me engaged and working on very interesting projects while we were really working on like the rinse and repeat blue jeans, little black dress, white t-shirt type tile lines.
Right.
So that's kind of like the long and short of like, we work on residential, we work on commercial. Mercury Mosaics is like a bakery for tile because at the end of the day, we're still doing the manufacturing artisan style, small batches, kilns, hand brushing, but at a much larger scale. So there's 40 of us today in various roles. And it's just kind of, it doesn't feel like 22 years. It kind of feels like I've been doing this for 5 years. And meeting you and being at Coverings this last time, like I hadn't been to Coverings in 15 years. So that was kind of my first like peek out of building this thing and going back into a tile industry trade show.
Well, I'm so glad that you came to Coverings, and accolades for you talking about your sobriety and being in that headspace and being an artist and being drawn to so many different things across the board, and to have that momentum that you were still able to get into the tile space that doesn't allow you just to do a rinse and repeat. And that's what I love about you. That's what I love about Alice and Eden is you don't fit into a mold. There's a pun there, but haha. No, you don't fit into that mold of the standardization of, the corporate manufacturing. Like, you're so creative and that you're able to take that artistry and not be small. That alone, oh my gosh. It's just an incredible. That's what I love about being an entrepreneur and the visionary and everything that you offer. So as far as you mentioned Lululemon, what are maybe a couple of other jobs that you can think of that you're really proud of that have kind of shaken up your portfolio?
Yeah, another project that really has shaken up our portfolio and continues to is this really cool Diamonds River ombre design that we did in a local kitchen here in Minnesota, literally in 2018. And to this day, like it's become our custom little black dress where a lot of people will see it and want to alter it to their dimensions and their space and just kind of zhuzh the colors. And it's become this really cool, simple yet out of the box rinse and repeat custom that we've done. So I'm really proud of that because certainly that's sustained a lucky 7 years. And I think the final one is really what brought me back to Coverings. And that is a project that we were hired by an artist here from our local community named Deani Whitehawk. And the cool story about it is it was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, she and I were just like kind of casually chatting. Like, she's like, would you guys ever do like a 2-story, rendition of one of my designs in your tile? And it was just like a super casual conversation. And I think she's such a visionary, just very articulate, very clear, like she has a very clear sightline of where she's taking not only her art, but where she is bringing Native American abstraction in the entire art narrative and really helping our country, the world, to understand that abstraction didn't start in the 1940s by like a few white guys. That is actually goes way back. It's really deep, and there's a lot of respect for land and things far beyond that people actually talk about in textbooks. And she came to us after being retained by the Whitney Museum of Art to dream up where she would translate her artwork in a cafe. So like when the project started, she was like, okay, I have like all these walls. So it was just like really walking through in deep detail, very thoughtfully, and just understanding her vision, understanding our capabilities, and on both sides, really stretching ourselves. Like we've never done something like what we did with her, and she had never done anything like this space. And so it was a collaboration between our studio, between the architects, between the museum. And it was something for me, I think it's like I had kind of put away a lot of our extremely challenging custom work. You know, it really took a lot out of us as a studio to do the Lululemon type customization, especially on their rate of expansion was pretty impressive. But it was like getting a doctorate in doing custom design work and like managing construction sites and logistics and all the things. So I really looked at her project as like awakening that. It's like we had done a lot of work over the last decade to figure out our standard product line. So it was like giving us permission to think way outside of the box and to be like really step into who we are. And we're not just tile makers, but we're mosaic artists, and our canvases are quite large now.
Right. And I mean, just as a business owner, that plays into that piece, because if you didn't go through that ebb and flow, like you said with Lululemon, you had your systems in place, you had your processes in place. And without that, it could have been very tumultuous to get through a project like that. So I think I've seen this. This is at a cafe that you said that this art piece, the art is in. I believe I've seen that on your website. And for those of you that want to see what Mercury is talking about, it's at mercurymosaics.com, correct? Where they can see your portfolio and see exactly what it is that we're talking about. You know, and I think that, you know, just having women like you and sharing these authentic stories, this is what this podcast is all about, is amplifying voices of women in our field to empower each other to flourish in this business and in life. And already just 13 minutes into it, the impact that I believe through your message of how, you know, you flourished in your personal life, you flourished in your business, thinking outside of the box, but having these opportunities that you've been given. I love it. And the fact that you say that, you know, you've gotten outside of the box as an artist, like with no ego and just like this passion that you have. I wish everyone in life was like Mercedes, honestly.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, I joke around and say like there's like patches of grass outside my window here. And I say every year, like if my ego enters into this, like it is immediately sent out to fertilize the lawn, because there's really not any room to have an ego, because I think if you're going to survive in this business, there's a lot of like, you must have a lot of humility, and you are like a constant student. And there's certainly a lot of ego in this business, and there's a lot of opportunities to just like wipe you out. And if you enter in like thinking that you've got it all figured out and there's nothing left to learn, like I see people going down left and right, and like, yeah, there's no guarantee of survival in this industry. I'll tell you that.
Right. And, you know, I share a lot of this with women that I mentor and just talk to, because I'm taking two industries, lighting and tile, and fusing them together. And so there's the weight of both of them. But I always tell people, like, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. and I'm sick. There's a little bit of sickness that we have to be able to go through the peaks and valleys. But where I thrive the most is whenever I'm in the valley. It's finding those solutions and getting through that with either myself or clients that we're working on projects with. So the fact that, there is that ego that comes along of like, hey, you're doing great. Okay, good, but not good enough, at least for me. So I love that you have built this empire based on what is passionate for you. And that's so inspiring. I want to talk a little bit about, so the brand that you have, what is some advice that you would have maybe with newer companies that are looking to expand in the hospitality and commercial market? Because you've talked about that a little bit about residential, but then tapping into commercial.
Well, first of all, a lot of people don't realize, but Mercury comes from, so I used to call my company Mosaics by Mercedes for like the first 3-4 years. And I renamed it Mercury Mosaics because Mercury is the Roman god of skilled trade and craftsmanship. And so I just wanted that to just be like there and like fueling the whole thing. Thank you. And, in commercial design, it can also be just as personal as residential. Like what I've really found is when we work with, we get to work with sometimes the top architect firms on the planet. Gensler is one of them. And at the end of the day, they're absolutely intending to design something incredibly meaningful, but they have a lot of more levels of scrutiny that they're under to just get their vision and specification to the other side of actual construction. So right. The best advice that I have for newer brands is I always think of, this is going to date me, but like the Michael J. Fox movies of the 80s, there was one that he was this concierge in a hotel, and like he had this vision to build this luxury hotel. I think the movie was called For Love or Money. And his dream was always to build this like super high-end luxury hotel. But in the meantime, he was a concierge at another high-end luxury hotel. And he was always like, at the end of the day, like he was dogged about just like taking care of people. Right. And that's been our secret, is like, we take care of people. And so sometimes what we do doesn't always make sense, quote, business-wise, but because we prioritize taking care of people and making things go right and then sorting it out afterward at times, sure. That's gone a really long way. Like having a few key relationships to begin with that you really nurture versus trying to be everything to everyone. Like really take the time and have the respect for your own brand and yourself to become something that you can be excellent at. And that becomes your brand and how you, quote, sell it. It's not about Instagram or Facebook. Those are secondary, but you first have to you can have a clarity on who you are. I guarantee it in the first 2 years, because I didn't have any funding, but that clarity first is really key.
Absolutely. And I can see it all over your website. I saw it, as soon as I met you and kind of started talking to you, that your business is kind of your personality and who you are as a human being. And you've done a great job emulating that. I can see it. There's websites that you go to and tile design manufacturers that you go to, and it just feels very narrow, very hard, very in the box. And then I go to your website and it's like, oh, I get this. Like I want to work there. Like it just seems so warm and welcoming, and everything that you're doing, the landscape there is just, it's amazing for what you're doing. And I'm going to continue giving you those accolades because you deserve them. It's incredible what you're doing. So you talked a little bit about changing the website, the name. You talked about kind of how to grow. When was a time, maybe recently, that you knew that it was time to grow, it was time to scale? Can you paint that landscape kind of on a mosaic tile for us of what that looks like?
Yeah, I think in business, like there's building and growing, and then there's like staying the same, which eventually you decline because inflation exists. Like the world doesn't stop. Like I can't go buy a gallon of gas for what I did 5 years ago. So you can't just, it's just like the law of the universe. I can't quote what law, but like and I'm somebody like, you know, those like rating systems, like I'm a strategic, I'm an arranger, I am positivity, and I don't remember the other ones because I'm on the spot, but like, I think too, just understanding who you are and like that's part of it. Because in the beginning of business, sometimes I would go, of course money matters. Money for sure matters. Like you need money. And like I read these books and they're always like, money doesn't matter. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like that does
Right.
too. But if you can figure out like what you're passionate about so that you can be in the ring and fight for it when it's just like completely sucky, which is like every other week for a small business. Like, listen, it is not glamour, but like being a parent isn't glamour. Being a
Right.
spouse isn't glamour. But if you've chosen a correct partner, like you're loving your child, like you always are going to be there through the thick and thin. I don't think brands and business are different. That's my experience anyway, personally.
No, absolutely. And I love that you bring that up because it is about, again, going back to what we've already kind of talked about of can you get through the tumultuous time based on, and I think that it really comes down to passion and also emulating, knowing those personality traits of what you're good at. You know, I talked a lot about with just being a part of the WOFB. You know, I'm such a trailblazer, a mover and a shaker, constantly just go, 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 that it took me some time to start to trust other people. I knew what I wasn't good at, but I had to trust other people that could take on things for me that I just didn't want to do anymore. Who wants to do accounting? Boring. You know what I mean? But those are all things that are really important for our business and those systems in place. And that is the only way to scale. You can't scale and grow to multi-million or wherever it is that you want to be with just yourself. So the fact that, you know, you talked about changing the name of the website. I'm sure that when you started your company, you know, there was a few people. Now we look at the picture of your website and you've got 40 plus people and all of these systems and all of this tribe with you helping you. And that's really important too. And I think also when we're talking about brand, I think this is an important piece for women in the industry to know that there is something that's called WBENC, which is the National Women's Business Enterprise National Council. So you're a WBEC, I am as well. But what is the benefit of being a materials handler, or why did you decide to write the dissertation to become a WBNC?
I did simply because it wasn't obvious that we were female founded or woman owned. And I resisted it for a really long time because I didn't want any favors based off of my gender. Like I wanted to earn people's business fair and square, but I learned more and more and more that it made a difference for people to actually know that the company is woman owned. And so simply for that reason to be identified as that way, that's why I did. So that's the benefit, is that it validates that it's true, that I don't have some random person on the side that owns it and I'm like the front man, you know, like that's really it.
Right. And, you know, as far as like, because I've done some of their pitch decks, I've done some of their Shark Tanks to win funding through these massive companies, and have also, because I do tile installation, provide the labor. It's a great asset as well because you can, you know, bid on jobs that are federal and government. And also companies are looking for women-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses. So from a material standpoint, is there that great benefit then for people that are looking for that type of materials for a woman-owned business for you? Have you seen that?
Just for full transparency, I haven't figured out a strategic federal or corporate purchasing program to acquire luxury tile yet. So if your listeners know of that strategy out there, I've certainly had colleagues adjacent in food categories and apparel, et cetera, that are like crushing it on corporate and government contracts. So one of my mottos is never give up, but I'm currently not pursuing figuring out a federal contract to purchase luxury high-end tile at present. So I'm very open on if there's something I'm absolutely missing. I've been a certified WBNC for approximately 5 years. So I'm definitely open to if I've missed something in my search and quest, but it's not currently something that I'm actively seeking based off of the time invested already.
I know. And honestly, you need a full-time person just to even deal with what is out there for WBEC, because
Yeah.
the world is an oyster whenever it comes to that. So I'll send you some links of information that I have that I've done. But also the other thing of, with WBEC, how is the evolution? I'm going to go deep for just a minute. How has the evolution of women in the industry changed since you started as Mercury Mosaics, or I'm sorry, Mercedes Mosaics, to now?
The breadth of companies that have female leadership in tile specifically is so much bigger now than when I was originally interacting and just getting my feet wet with covering. So that's extremely refreshing. But I will say on the flip side, I miss just how vibrant the handmade tile community was at coverings. In fact, I had walked through the handmade tile area of coverings and I didn't know I was in it. And I'm a handmade tile junkie. So the trade-off of all of this emphasis on women in tile, I totally missed where handmade tile was in the show. And I haven't looked in depth on what's happening, but that was a big notice that I had when I was there. So
that's incredible. It's
I'm
incredible.
processing that.
Yeah, girl, we got you. Just keep coming back. And we would love to have you involved with the WOFB I think you would be a great asset to women that are trying to get to your level. Because truly, I mean, I'm going to be completely transparent. Like, you are an inspiration to so many people that are out there and you probably don't even know it. And now after today, girl, we got to have you.
I appreciate that. Girl, it is hard. Yeah, I'm happy at sometimes and then I question myself. I think that's like what entrepreneurs do is like, 5 days of the week, you're just so excited and you're glad that you chose this like challenging life. And the other 2 days you're like, holy shit, should I have just gotten a job? Or, oh my God, like what could the other side, should I go be employed somewhere? And it's like, oh, I'm not employable. Okay. I have to, like, I'm too much. I have to keep, I've gone too far. Yeah. Like it's real. Like that has never ended. So I think that also is what keeps the ego in check, is because when you like achieve something, like you're working on the next thing because it's never stop improving. So it's
right.
It's just the steady flowing game.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like that the women in the industry, I mean, for me to see corporate heads, women being in those corporate positions, to now looking at the CTI exam and all of the women that are being involved in that. And I don't know if you know this or not, but next year on International Women's Day in Florida, they are hosting the CTI exam for all women to take that exam. So wow. I'll send you some information on that too, because to see setters then that are female also pushing and leading in this industry, for something that's kind of in a male dominated industry, is really fascinating to watch as well. So I want to ask you lastly, can you tell me a little bit about, I want to know, Mosaic Candy. Where did that come in? And is that something that's just a new project that you're working on? How is that your sister company?
So Mosaic Candy Shop is the full name.
Oh, I need to put that there then.
Yeah, do it. So yeah. Look at you. Mosaic Candy Shop is, what's that?
So that's why they pay me the big bucks.
I mean, they're so fancy. Mosaic Candy Shop is Mercury Mosaic's sister brand. So we're all one corporation, but the sister brand and what it is. So I started off as a mosaic artist. Like that's how this all started. I loved assembling mosaic art, and the mosaics that I loved the best were made out of handmade tile. The running joke I have is like, how hard could it be to start a handmade tile company? Okay. So I'm glad, like sometimes sometimes I have this like blind faith that I can build things. But Mosaic Candy Shop is like kind of coming full circle, because listen, until the pandemic, I had literally out the window, me personally working on mosaics was just like non-existent. It was like a hope and a prayer. And so I just started disciplining myself during the pandemic, but let's just also call it self-soothing therapy, because like what the junk was like all of that, and like everything got disrupted. So it was like the thing I could arrive to just work on a small mosaic project actually started giving me life. And I was like, cool, good. I did pick the right profession. I do love still making mosaics. I love making the tiles that create the mosaics, but like during the last 4 years as well, our production of waste was going, like it was climbing. We were producing so much waste, and it wasn't ugly waste. It was gorgeous waste, but it just wasn't the correct colors or something with the shapes that could fulfill standard orders. And so Mosaic Candy Shop became an answer. So there's two options with creating all this waste. You could curl up in a corner and cry about all the things that were going wrong and all these materials pent up with all this cash, labor and materials, and you can't like use them for anything. Or you could reimagine them and reposition them. Mosaic Candy Shop became reimagining and repositioning and reclaiming this waste material, but in a very creative way. Because the other idea was like, you know what? If art actually gave me this much joy, it might for other people too. And I'd love to curate it in a way that made it a simple kit for anyone, whether you're a tile person already, you're an architect, or you've never even touched mosaics before. I wanted to deliver it in a simple box with video tutorials so that you could put something together, kind of like Hello Fresh of mosaic.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. It's genius, honestly. That's a true entrepreneur, is taking what is not working, being able to take, I think you call it a bit of tile and do something with it. And that one is just super rad. Have you by chance ever heard of the St. Louis City Museum?
I have not heard of the St. Louis City Museum. I'm writing it down.
So the reason why I say St. Louis City Museum is the St. Louis City Museum is 16 stories of nothing but local mosaic artists that covered 50,000 square foot of mosaic per floor.
Whoa.
And they took everything from broke down school buses, planes, manufacturing steel that was just laying out in the yards, and they recycled it into this incredible museum.
So that sounds like my haven, and that I need to go visit for a life recharge. I wrote that down. Wow.
You owe it to yourself. You will absolutely find it to be one of the most breathtaking, phenomenal places as a mosaic artist. You'll truly love it. You know, I played roller derby for years and years. I'm from St. Louis, and we used to love going to the City Museum with mosaic and skating. You know, it wasn't the best to skate across some of it, but this place is so rad. I think you're going to really, really love it. Cool. So, well, I am so excited that I got to talk to you today, that I got to connect with you. I got to learn so much just about things in general before we even got on today, but just learned so much about you. I'm going to have you on again, because we didn't even get to touch base on your community involvement, the humanitarian, the Nas like mosaic that you did for the coffee shop in your town. Like, we didn't even get to talk about it at all. So we will definitely have to do another one. But I'm so grateful that I met you. I can't wait to talk and hang out again. Maybe not on podcast, and learn. I'm going to come visit actually your space. You're not that far from me. So I'm going to come visit your space and maybe the near future and do some fun mosaic candy shop work with you.
Yeah. 1,000,000%. Yeah, literally this space, and if anyone is visiting Minneapolis, we very much welcome people to come in for tours. We're not formal in terms of like they're only on Friday, but if you reach out to us in advance, we would be more than happy to tour you around the space, because it is definitely a pride point. And honestly, this building is badass. It's like a former old World War II manufacturing facility, and just like just droves of wind like it's pretty much life-giving. So that's also part of the secret of this business surviving, is like being able to be doing this in a space like this is kind of a game changer. It's been my dream. So we've been in here for it'll be 8 years in June.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Where can people find you on all socials? I know I've got you here at your Mercury Mosaics and then also the Mosaic Candy Shop. I know you're everywhere. I saw you're
Well, thank you.
everywhere. You're on apps I haven't even heard
I
of.
appreciate it. I don't even know about that, but I am on, so the socials that I manage for myself are my own LinkedIn. So Mercedes Austin on LinkedIn, and then Mercedes Austin Art on Instagram, in addition to Mercury Mosaics and Mosaic Candy Shop that you dropped there.
Okay, perfect. So this one, Mercedes, this one is Mercedes Austin Art for Instagram people. So check her out if you're not following her. I'll also have a link to follow her when we release the podcast. And so everyone and your mom, you should be buying from Mercury Mosaics for all your jobs. I'm going to start speccing them whenever I can.
Thanks.
We're just gonna make some magic happen and watch you grow and scale even more. So thank you so much for being on today.
You.
And I hope you have a great weekend.
All right, you too.
All right, bye-bye. Want to be a sponsor of this podcast? We have packages that are available for $0 a month up to $500. Every package brings something different. So check out WOFB for more information. Also, be sure to log into WOFB on Facebook to be a part of the conversation and join our online community and connect with women like Mercedes, connect with chicks like me, and thousands of others that are in flooring, tile, and stone industries. Visit our website at womenflooring.com and click join. Thank you for tuning in and stay connected through Women of the Flooring Business. Till next time.